joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. Straight to the action on Dalal Street, where the markets have seen a sharp recovery in the last hour, ending with slim losses. After threatening to breach the 10,600 mark in trade today, the Nifty spiked to recoup losses and ended above the 10,650 mark. The Sensex shed about 65 points today. Amongst the broader markets, banks ended with cuts of about 0.3%. After a weak performance over the last few days, mid-caps outperformed, ending with gains of 0.3%, so recovery in the last hour. But the top story this evening, it is advantage ArcelorMittal, and it's a setback for the Ruiyas, the promoters of Essar Steel. The National Company Law Tribunal, that's the NCLT, has rejected the Ruiyas' plea to withdraw Essar Steel from insolvency. Remember, last week, the Company Law Appellate Tribunal, the NCLAT, had directed the NCLT's Ahmedabad bench to pass an order on Essar Steel's resolution plan by the 31st of this month. The Ruiyas had earlier submitted a resolution plan seeking to withdraw the company from insolvency by offering over 54,000 crore rupees to lenders, including operational creditors. Ritu Singh joins us now with more. Ritu, a setback for the Ruiyas, shot in the arm for ArcelorMittal. Where does this leave the current promoters of Essar Steel?
In what comes as a setback for the Ruiyas, the Ahmedabad bench of NCLT has rejected the settlement offer of the Essar Steel promoters, which is the Ruiya family. Do remember, the promoters had offered to pay the lenders about 54,000 crore rupees to withdraw the company from insolvency proceedings under Section 12A of the IBC. But the tribunal has pointed out that an application for the withdrawal of insolvency proceedings under this section can only be considered if it is filed by the applicant who initiated the insolvency in the first place. Now, in the case of Essar Steel, that was State Bank of India and Standard Chartered Bank, and not really the Ruiyas. Now, to the promoters' argument on the shareholders' right to redemption, the court has ruled that IBC eliminates any such rights for the shareholder and added that the Ruiyas did not really make any offer even when the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. Therefore, the NCLT has ruled that there was no illegality in the Committee of Creditors' decision to select ArcelorMittal as the winning bidder. Now, ArcelorMittal, of course, has welcomed the order and said it is a positive development and they're hoping now for a swift resolution in this matter. Essar, however, still believes that their offer is superior and they will now take the call on the next steps after studying the order in detail. We do understand, of course, that Essar promoters are likely to challenge the NCLT verdict at a higher court, that is NCLAT, at the very earliest. In the meantime, NCLT will be proceeding with the hearing of ArcelorMittal's resolution proposal.
Nilang Desai of AZBN Partners joins us now. Nilang, a big shot in the arm as far as ArcelorMittal is concerned and a setback for the Ruiyas. Of course, this matter is now going to head to the NCLAT, but nevertheless, the NCLT saying that it rejects Essar's repayment proposal.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not a great start for the Ruiyas. I think, as you said, this is, there is a potential that this will be appealed and then appeal onwards from there to the Supreme Court. So we still have to see round 2 and round 3. But not a great start for the Ruiyas. Having said that, keep in mind that this is only part A really of round 1, because the next thing that has to happen as yet in the NCLT is an evaluation of the Mittal plan to see if that works out in terms of the complaints or the cases filed by the operational creditors saying that, they haven't got their fair due. So we still have to wait and see how that pans out.
Yes, we are given to understand that ArcelorMittal's case will be presented by the RP tomorrow at the NCLT. But just to take up the point that you were making, because that's the Essar Steel argument to the NCLT, they claim that the overriding principle of the IBC is maximization of recovery for creditors, and hence their proposal is better. In fact, they say it's 12,000 crore rupees better than the ArcelorMittal plan. Do you believe that that argument is going to find legs?
Well, from what you're telling me in terms of what the court has said, clearly it hasn't found legs. And so far the courts have been pretty unanimous in their preference for value maximization. So this is one of those few cases where they seem to have valued process over value maximization, which is interesting.
Okay, Nilang, on the 25th January judgment of the Supreme Court upholding the IBC in toto, the Supreme Court, in various ways, I don't have the exact words with me, it did say that 29A is valid and defaulting promoters therefore ought not to be allowed. So, assuming this case goes now after the NCLT process to NCLAT and Supreme Court, should we assume that the very fact that the 25th January judgment stands, the chances of Arcelor or the chances of Ruyas getting a shot at their own plant is weak?
Well, speaking technically, 29A and 12A are a little disconnected because 29A really is focusing on a resolution plan. The Ruya bid here isn't a resolution plan. It is under a different section which says actually we're taking the company out of IBC. And to that extent, Section 12A doesn't really talk about 29A. By definition, pulling it out of IBC would involve the promoter. So in that sense, these issues are disconnected. So
because of the precedent of the Benani case, you think that in the NCLAT and in the Supreme Court, the Ruyas still have an even chance?
Well, let me put it this way. Does the promoter who may be disqualified under 29A have a chance to pull a company out of IBC with 12A? The answer is yes. I think the real question for the Ruyas always was timing. And I think they did get a shot in the arm when the Supreme Court ruled a month or two ago to say that the timing set out in the regulations is, just a guideline and not mandatory. But obviously the NCLT has taken a firmer view on some issue in relation to it, which may well be timing. I doubt the NCLT will say they're fundamentally disqualified. I suspect it's got something to do with timing.
Nilang, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 with your take on what these developments mean. Also with us, Alok Dheer, Managing Partner at Dheer & Dheer. Alok, thanks very much for joining us. What do you make of the developments that have transpired at the NCLT today? The NCLT rejecting Essar Steel, the Ruya's repayment plan for Essar Steel.
I think this is a big setback for Essar, and in that sense advantage Essilor. In fact, as you are aware, the Supreme Court had earlier rejected the bid of Essar, and therefore insofar as this last-ditch attempt of Essar was there for paying the entire amount of 54,300 as against 45,000 which Essilor was planning to pay, certainly from the perspective of maximization of value, it was a higher amount that they were paying, and stakeholders would have got further and substantially more money. And in particular, the operational creditor would have got the entire monies due from them, as against the Essilor bid, where the operational creditors would get a fraction of their money. So not only is it a setback to the Essar scheme, but it is also a setback for the operational creditors who will now not get the full amount as was being promised to them by Essar Steel. However, at the same time, the court has said two things. One is that there is no illegality in the COC not accepting the bid. This application is not maintainable under Section 60, subsection 5 of the IBC. And also they have directed the resolution professional to put up the Essilor's plan. However, we are aware that there were applications which were filed by the operational creditors also challenging the Essar Steel plan. Challenging the ArcelorMittal plan. Now the issue, when the RP puts the ArcelorMittal plan before the NCLT Ahmedabad, the question and the challenge which is made by the operational creditors will have to be looked at.
If what you say is true, that somebody is willing to pay the operational creditors and the financial creditors, then the NCLT should have seen the justice of the case. They haven't.
See, I have not seen the judgment. I'm of the view that this is something which is interpretation of law. Clearly, there has been a judgment that has gone against the Essar Steel in the Supreme Court at the stage when their bid was rejected. That may have influenced the NCLT Ahmedabad while passing this order. But this crucial issue of them offering 54,389 crore odds as against 45,000 crores, the difference between the two is that they are now wanting to pay everybody the entire money that is due. That's why there is a difference between the two.
Essar Steel, the Ruyas, making it clear that their offer is better because they intend to repay operational creditors to the full as well. But here's the lawyer of ArcelorMittal reacting to the NCLT order, shot in the arm for them.
See, the judgment is the Essar shareholders had moved an application seeking a permission that they must be allowed to settle this matter. Now, the NCLT has held that only way to settle the matter is through an application under 12A, which is under the court, and that is the only way it can happen. This is not an application under 12A. Supreme Court has also upheld the validity of 12A, so therefore no other way of redemption, everything is permissible, and therefore this application is not maintainable, and therefore this application is dismissed on that counts. Court will proceed with the resolution plan approval application, which has been filed by the resolution professional. So that application will now proceed.
Well, the lawyers there of ArcelorMittal shot at the arm for the group. In fact, I caught up with Aditya Mittal. He expressed confidence that the Essar Steel matter would not just be resolved soon, but would also be resolved in their favour, despite the delay in the IBC process. Remember, the IBC process is meant to conclude in 180 days. It's already been 540 days. Speaking to me on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, Mittal rejected the idea that Arcelor needed to make a revised offer after the new bid by the Ruiyas, which is almost 12,000 crore rupees higher than theirs. Take a listen.
I think all promoters have the right to buy back their companies by paying back 100 cents on the dollar, but not 540 days later, right? They should first of all not allow the company to go under, right? That's the first requirement. And if the company has gone under, try and find a solution as soon as you can. To first submit a bid of 20,000 and then, you know, mess around with the process, I don't think is a promoter trying to act in the best interest of creditors.
Is there a possibility at all, and we saw this play out as far as Arcelor is concerned, that there was a last-minute sweetening of the offer? Is that a possibility that you would consider, given the fact that Essar continues to bring up the fact that there is a 12,000 crore rupee difference between what they're offering and your offer?
Look, I think we've gone through 540 days. I think what the banks are really focused on is coming to the right conclusion.
But is this even a possibility, a revised offer on your part?
There's no need, right? The COC has taken a decision. We're in the courts to approve the resolution plan. So at this point in time, I think our bid, if you just looked at the scoring when the bids were open, was far in excess of anything on the table. And today the banks are willing to sell at a discount to our bid. So I think the discussion is not about the bid. The discussion is really about
the
process, making sure that the employees of Essar Steel have a clear future, making sure that we can make the investments, improve the business, grow the business, and bring in our capabilities to India.
Well, that's Aditya Mittal on why the bid for Essar Steel should go in their favour. But on to earnings now. Axis Bank reporting a strong set of earnings for Q3. On a quarterly basis, the net profit is more than doubled, while the net interest income has seen an 18% growth. The bank's asset quality has seen an improvement of about 20 basis points on both the gross and the net levels. Presenting the earnings report for the very first time, the bank's new MD and CEO Amitabh Chaudhary said the lender will focus on growth, profitability and sustainability as its new strategy.
Next 3 years would pivot around delivery of 3 important vectors: growth, profitability and sustainability. We intend to drive relentlessly our focus on improving our cost efficiency also. And of course, most important of all, we intend to reduce the bank's credit costs materially from where it is today. These moves, we believe, have sufficient potential to bring us back to return ratios that our stakeholders have been used to in the past. The third vector for our strategy is sustainability. While delivery of growth and profitability is really important, we intend to focus just as much on the sustainability front.
Well, the first quarter there for Amitabh Chaudhary at Axis Bank, good numbers coming in for the bank. Bank of Baroda also reported a strong set for Q3. The lender's loan growth coming in at a 4-quarter high at 12.3%, leading to an increase in interest margins also at a 4-quarter high. Profit, though, below street expectations. Net interest income beat estimates. Asset quality also saw an improvement. So good numbers there from Bank of Baroda. HDFC reported a year-on-year drop, though, in its net profit. But despite this, third quarter profit at 2,100 crore rupees came in above the street estimate. Net interest income at about 3,200 crore rupees was also ahead of expectations. However, on asset quality, HDFC has witnessed a marginal deterioration. Also, its assets under management growth hit the lowest level seen in 5 quarters. We're done with the banks. On to tech. HCL Tech has beaten estimates in Q3. The company expressing its optimism of maintaining margin and revenue guidance for the fiscal. The stock rallied 1% in trade. Rima joins us now with the highlights. Rima.
The key highlight from HCL Technology has been the very strong top-line performance. Constant currency growth of 5.6% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. On a year-on-year basis, it's a growth of 13%, much higher than expectations, and also superior when you compare it to peers. Infy, for instance, had a 4.2% growth. TCS was at 1.8%, Wipro at 2.4%, and here we are with HCL Technology with a 5.6% growth. Some of the other internals include margins in line. Profits are higher on account of a lower tax. The company holds on to its FY19 guidance both on the revenue front as well as on the margin front. The other internal which is looking good is that the company tells us that they've seen the highest ever order bookings this quarter as well. So that is another positive. But the key highlight of the quarter has been the very strong revenue performance.
All right, Rima, thanks very much. That's HCL Tech. But here's the latest controversy. The two remaining independent members of the National Statistical Commission, PC Mohanan and JV Meenakshi, have tendered their resignation 2 years before the end of their term. Sources say the resignations are on account of them feeling that they were not being kept in the loop over several issues, including the GDP back series data. With these resignations, the 7-member body is left with just 2 members. That is the CSO, Praveen Srivastav, and the Niti Aayog CEO, Amitabh Kant. The other posts are vacant. To discuss this, we're now joined by the former Chief Statistician, Pranab Sen. Dr. Sen, appreciate you joining us. This clearly seems like a disappointing day for the National Statistical Commission. The 2 remaining independent members tendering in their resignation, citing differences over the manner in which the employment data has been dealt with, also being kept out of the loop as far as the GDP back series is concerned. What do you make of this?
This is quite serious, actually, Shireen, because the whole idea of establishing the National Statistical Commission was to give people the belief and faith that government data was untampered with. So the credibility of our national statistics was, in a sense, in the hands of the NSC. And if the NSC members, particularly the non-official members, have resigned, what it means in effect is that their belief is that the data is no longer under control of an oversight body which ensures its integrity. So
yes, and then what you raise is a serious concern, Dr. Sen, but let me talk about some of the specifics which are being cited as the reasons behind the resignation. They claim ostensibly that the National Statistical Commission was kept out of the loop when it came to the GDP back series data. Now, government sources tell us that the NSC's work on the GDP back series was merely an academic exercise and that the back series data was put out by the CSO, and hence there was no need in that sense for the involvement of the NSC. What do you make of that?
That is simply incorrect. It is true that a subcommittee of the NSC came out with a series, but that was in a context where the CSO itself had not. But when the CSO did come up with an alternative back series, it rightly should have been presented to the NSC, to take a call on whether or not it met the minimum standards that's expected. The fact is that the NSC was not kept in the loop, and it was, in fact, released by the Niti Aayog, which has absolutely no locus standi on the matter at all. Right? Now, that is precisely, I think, the sort of, what should I say, violation of the role and substance of the NSC that these 2 members are objecting to.
On the issue of the employment survey, sir, and I'm quoting to you what Mr. Mohanan has said to the Business Standard. He says in this that the report was approved and should have been released immediately, but that was not the case. I thought I should not watch silently at what was happening. This is what Business Standard has quoted Mr. Mohanan as saying on the employment survey. We reached out to government officials for a response, and without being quoted, government officials tell us that this is a matter that's still under process, and they're using tablets for the very first time or some such thing, and which is why it has been delayed. What do you make of this argument?
If that is what they are saying, then this sets a new precedent altogether, because we've had a system where NSS reports were guided and released by what is used to be called the Governing Council of the NSS. The Governing Council has been superseded and merged into the NSC. So far as I understand, and remember, I was chairman of the NSC for 3 years.
Yes,
the NSC is the last word on what survey the NSSO would take up, whether the data was accurate, and when it should be released. If the NSC members are saying that they had approved it for release and it has not been released, and even worse, that it's going to the political system, which is the cabinet, to determine its release, is a complete reversal of the the arm's length relationship that we've been trying to inculcate in the official statistical system over the last 2 decades.
So let me end by asking you, Dr. Sen, that with these two resignations, the National Statistical Commission is only left with Amitabh Kant and left with Mr. Srivastav, the CSO, on board. So for all practical purposes, I mean, the NSC has been disbanded because the other posts are vacant still.
In effect, the NSC does not exist. Because the NSC is ultimately the independent members and the chairman. The CSI is only the secretary. He is not a member. The CEO of Niti Aayog is an ex officio member. But when the acting chairman and the only other member have resigned, it is in effect the resignation of the NSC as a whole.
Okay, so you're saying that this means that the NSC as a whole, as of these resignations from J.V. Meenakshi and Mr. P.C. Mohanan, stands dysfunctional, stands disbanded and ineffective. Well, Dr. Sen, thanks very much for joining us and explaining to us what these implications, what these developments mean for the National Statistical Commission. 2 members resigning, and that throws up issues of the credibility of data itself dealt with by the NSC. Well, moving on, investigative news portal Cobrapost has levelled allegations against housing finance company DHFL. The stock tumbled over 8% after Cobrapost accused the company's promoters of siphoning off funds to the tune of 31,000 crore rupees via shell companies. DHFL has refuted the charges, calling the expose, and I quote, a mischievous misadventure with malified intent to cause damage to the company. Let's go across to Ritu Parnabhuyan for more details. Ritu, take us through the charges that have been made by Cobrapost and the DHFL response.
The investigations, according to Cobrapost, were done over a period of couple of months, and after that, according to Cobrapost, they have arrived at a figure of around 31,000 crore, which allegedly was siphoned off by promoters of DHFL. And that modus operandi was basically DHFL giving loans of worth around 7,390 crores to companies engaged in slum development, but Cobrapost maintains that these companies were not engaged in slum development and were actually a maze of shell companies. That is one. Secondly, around 14,000 crore worth of loans were given to a web of around 45 companies. Again, according to Cobrapost, they allege that these 45 companies, out of that around 34 have connections with the promoters of DHFL. Then, of course, other allegations also, which include, giving loans to shell companies in Gujarat and Karnataka worth around 2,480 crores before the elections, basically trying to, say that they see a connection between the elections and the loans that were given in these states to these shell companies. Now, DHFL has replied to these allegations which have been made by Cobrapost, and DHFL maintains that, and I quote, the mischievous misadventure of Cobrapost appears to have been with a malignant intent to cause damage to the goodwill and reputation of DHFL and resulting in erosion of shareholder value. The company goes on to say that DHFL is a responsible and law-abiding corporate citizen and all loans are disbursed in normal course of business in accordance with industry best practices and in compliance with all regulatory norms. Last but not the least, the company maintains, and I quote again, DHFL and its group companies are confident of meeting any scrutiny on any aspect of our operations and will pursue these frivolous allegations to its logical conclusion. With that, it's back to you.
Rituparna Bhuyan, appreciate you joining us with that story. But the warring promoters of Yes Bank, Rana Kapoor and Madhu Kapoor, could be burying the hatchet. In a press release, Yes Bank has announced that both of them have decided to appoint one director each on the bank's board. The announcement is expected in April. The board has also approved the appointment of a director on interim special duty. This will be only till the new CEO, Ravneet Gill, takes charge in March. So smoking the peace pipe, the two Kapoor. The run-up to the interim budget 2019 is also the season of wish lists. While the angel tax has caused an existential threat of sorts for startups and angel investments in the country, and it's dominated most of the conversations, both investors and startups are hoping that interim Finance Minister Piyush Goyal puts this issue to rest on the 1st of February. Will he do that or not is the big question. Many also anticipate that the government will boost its flagship schemes like Startup India and Make in India, but sectors like health tech, agri-tech and fintech may also be at the forefront of budgetary attention. To get clarity on what startups and investors really want, joining me on the program, founder of the GSF Accelerator, Rajesh Sani, joins me here in Delhi. Rehan Yar Khan, managing partner at Aureus Venture, representing IVCA, or the Indian Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, joins us from Mumbai. And from Bangalore, Rahul Garg, founder and CEO of Moglix, a B2B industrial goods online marketplace, and Ram Subramaniam B, co-founder of Blackbuck, an online marketplace to book a truck for intercity B2B freight. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Let me get started with angel tax, because that, of course, is the most contentious issue. The hope is that perhaps interim Finance Minister Piyush Goyal will take up this issue and maybe axe the tax. That is the big hope, but will he deliver on that is the question. On the 4th of February, the DIPP has called another meeting between startups as well as the CBDT and itself to try and untangle some of the pending issues that the Jan 16th circular issued by the DIPP has not been able to address. Rajesh Sani, let me start by asking you, angel tax, the single biggest issue, do you hope that it will be axed this time around, or is that too much of an ask?
No, absolutely. I think government can and must abolish the angel tax. Not only angel tax, they must also quash all the notices that have been sent to startups for recovery of angel tax. It's just not acceptable. And on one hand, we have such a bright future in Startup India. On the other hand, one wing of the government is persecuting young startups and investors alike.
Okay, so abolish the angel tax and quash all the income tax notices that have been sent out already. That's the wish list there from Rajesh Sani. Rehan Yar Khan, let me come to you. How much of an issue does this continue to be? The government believes that they have been able to address most of the outstanding issues substantially through that Jan 16 circular that was issued, and more is likely to come in the second installment as and when the DIPP meets with startups on the 4th of February. But what would your expectation be from the budget?
Shireen, the issue has been that DIPP has kept rebottling this angel tax, and it hasn't improved. So even if you look at the Jan 16 circular, there are a number of issues with it. One is all the people who have received notices so far, there's no relief to them, right? That's the largest issue. The number two issue is that the way it's worded is that it doesn't look like much relief is possible going forward.
Okay.
Because all it seems to do is shift the registration process to DIPP from, the finance, from CBDT.
Right.
Right? And there are a number of other conditions like friends and family have to have a certain net worth. Even that 10 crore rupee exemption has a lot of ifs and buts with it.
Yeah.
Conditions attached. Then there are issues like, for example, if an angel invests in a later round, right, beyond that 10 crore. I mean, let's take an example of Sachin Bansal having put in whatever he was supposed to have put in, right, $50 million, $100 million into Ola. Now that can also be construed as angel money because he's not a fund, he's an individual, right? So even later round investors, if they are not funds, are subject to angel tax.
Okay.
Right. So the whole thinking is flawed. That if a fund invests, it's fine, but if you invest at the same price, then it's not fine. Right.
Okay.
So they haven't really addressed it. They've kind of repackaged it, and we've all euphoric when it first came out, but then the next day when we read it carefully, we realized that hey, this is not really going to get us very far.
Yeah.
So what we at IVCA have done is we have made a set of recommendations. We have said ideal case scenario, you go and you scrap 56. Right? Now, let's say you're unwilling to do that for whatever fears that you have.
Yeah.
We have given two additional recommendations on top. One is that we have said that up to 10 crores must be absolutely exempt.
Okay.
No questions of, what is your net worth and those kind of things.
Okay.
Because, are we trying to catch big frauds? Are we trying to catch small frauds, right?
Right.
Even if you're trying to catch a fraud. So let 10 crores go. Let it be like, duty-free imports which come in your baggage.
Okay.
So that is one recommendation we have made. The second recommendation we have made is that if you are co-investing along with a fund, right, and the fund has set a certain price, then that price is a good price.
Okay.
So you should not be questioned.
Let me go across to Rahul Garg now. Rahul, forget the angel tax for a moment because it's already dominated a lot of mind share and mind space. Outside of that, for the benefit of the startup ecosystem, and let's be clear, the budget can only provide, very little support. What needs to be done is outside of the budget as well to provide a much more conducive environment, to deal with filing of patents where we lag far behind China, regulatory issues outside of tax. So what else would you like to see, not necessarily linked only to the budget?
There are a few things that we need to keep in mind. Why startups is important. If I look at few of the stats, now startup as an industry, we can look at over the next 10 years, we could be generating anywhere north of 50 million plus jobs and impacting directly or indirectly the lives of 500 million plus people.
Yes.
Right? That is the sheer amount of impact startups can create and with the innovation they are bringing in. There are two things essential for startup ecosystem to flourish. One is access to capital.
Yeah.
And today the access to capital in India is still fairly small and can grow by 10x.
Right.
And the second aspect is how do we introduce capital efficiency for startups to operate in. And we have done some of the changes that have happened around the tax from the income tax assumption at a company level that have been introduced. But I would also go to the extent that there are opportunities for us to think about how does the cost structure of a startup can be optimized further, whether it is in terms of people working in startups getting opportunities or incentives to work in these startups and having lower income tax liabilities around
That's an interesting one. I would love to see that fly. I'm not sure whether that is going to gain any traction. I think the one thing that the startups and other companies in general have been pushing may not find favor in this budget, but certainly is something worth looking at, is removing the taxation on ESOPs, and I think that's been a long-standing demand as well. So I don't know whether it'll get addressed in this budget or not, but certainly something to look out for. But, Ram, let me pick up on the points that Rahul mentioned there, both in terms of access to capital as well as capital efficiency. And if we look at access to capital, there was with much fanfare the 10,000 crore rupee fund of funds for startups was launched by the government. Not too much we have seen happen on that account? I know Rajesh has been recommending that there be a $100 million fund to basically enable accelerators to get on with doing the job. What is it that you would like to see on both these fronts? Access to capital as well as capital efficiency.
Yeah, I think there are lots of innovative ideas out there, and access to capital has been a challenge. Foreign capital has become very important for the startups to flourish, whereas there is quite a bit of capital that could be made available within the country itself. So government stepping up and accelerating the initiatives in this area, it's going to be very, very important. And definitely just coming up with a certain framework around these aspects would also make startups more responsible around the efficiency related aspects in terms of how prudent they are towards capital deployment and so on. Yeah, so lots of areas to be still intervened by the government, and transformation is required in this area, Shirin.
All right, gentlemen, let's see how much of this is in fact translated into reality in the interim budget, or perhaps in the full budget when the new government comes to office. But thanks very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and your recommendations on what needs to be done to encourage and continue to build on the momentum that India's startup ecosystem is seeing.
So startups are eyeing budget relief and tax relief from the vote on account that will be presented on the 1st of February. Rahul Gandhi announced a minimum income guarantee for the poor if voted to power, with the government working on an agri-relief package of its own. Many believe Gandhi's move was a preemptive strike. The buzz in the corridors of power is that the cabinet could clear an agri-relief package very, very soon. It could possibly also be in the vote on account that will be presented on the 1st of February. Government sources tell us that the Agriculture Ministry has sent several proposals to the Prime Minister's office. The PMO has also sought data on small and marginal farmers, size of land holdings across the country, and what we're hearing is that a political call will have to be taken at the level of the Prime Minister. Now, as we talk about that, Rahul Gandhi's promise of a minimum income scheme for the poor is facing criticism from the BJP and even the Bahujan Samajwadi Party chief Mayawati. Asking if this scheme was another cruel joke, Mayawati issued a statement saying, and I quote, "Is this promise also a fake one, like a Garibi Hatao and current government's promises on black money, rupees 15 lakh and Achhe Din," end of quote. But the left parties have welcomed the move. Here are some political reactions to that big announcement by Rahul Gandhi.
यूनिवर्सल बेसिक इनकम का जहाँ तक सवाल है, हमारी सरकार नौजवानों के रोज़गार के लिए बहुत सी योजना लेकर आई है। राहुल गांधी चुनाव से पहले इसी तरह के वादे करके भ्रम पैदा करना चाहते हैं। नौजवानों की फिक्र कोई करेगा तो नरेंद्र मोदी जी करेंगे। सरकार हमारी बनने वाली है, तो राहुल गांधी जी की सरकार तो बनने वाली नहीं है, इसलिए कुछ भी घोषणा वो कर सकते हैं।
If a government takes a decision to ensure the minimum income to every citizen of this country, it is very need of the hour, because when the governments can give lakhs and lakhs of crore rupees as a aid to the corporate houses, those whose income is more than 500% every year they are increasing, then why not? The poor and marginalized people have a right of minimum guarantee of their income.
Of course, there is a difference of opinion about how this will actually be delivered. Let's focus on the big development that we heard of in the Ayodhya title suit case. The centre today moved the apex court seeking permission to transfer undisputed land to its original owners, which includes the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas as well. The Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas is a trust that was formed to promote the construction of Ram Temple at the disputed site in Ayodhya. And the other big story that will definitely be a headache for the BJP. More than 10 northeastern political parties have decided to oppose the Citizenship Amendment Bill. The decision was taken at a meeting convened by Meghalaya Chief Minister Conrad Sangma in Guwahati earlier today. We also have a report from Karishma from Guwahati on this. Karishma, how exactly are these parties planning to protest forward?
Well, leaders of 10 regional political parties in Northeast gathered together in Guwahati today for an all-party meeting which was convened by Meghalaya Chief Minister Conrad Sangma and Ahom Gana Porikhod Working President Otul Bora. And all these political leaders, including former chief ministers, unanimously resolved to fight against the Citizenship Amendment Bill 2016. The meeting resolved to send a delegation of leaders to New Delhi in the next few days to meet with the President of India and Prime Minister Modi and apprise them of the current situation in Northeast and the existential fears in the minds of the indigenous people. Also, the dismissive attitude of the ruling government in addressing the existential fears has led to unprecedented protests in the region, in Assam and in other parts of Northeast, including Manipur. We have seen students, women, people from different walks of life rallying in the streets, raising slogans against the government. Also, at some places, police and public clashes have been witnessed with people getting injured in the protest. So this has all become a cause of concern for the ruling government, and they have now resolved to unitedly oppose the bill and move New Delhi, trying to persuade them to withdraw the bill. Today in this meeting, we had Janata Dal United leaders also present, and they had extended full support to these regional parties, however, denying that there is any political gain behind it. So we have also spoken to AGP Working President Otul Bora, who said that they had opposed this bill from the very start. But a more proactive role was desired from the regional Ahom Gana Porikhod, which did not happen. So questions are also being asked as to whether these parties who are saying that they are committed to the problems of the people of the region will have the courage to walk out of the BJP or the Northeast Democratic Alliance in case the bill is passed, or are they just buying time ahead of 2019 general elections?
This meeting was a natural process. This is not intended to be in any way politically motivated. We have unanimously agreed to jointly oppose this bill. I think that is the first point. Number two, I think we will hope that after today's meeting and after discussions with Government of India and discussing with other political parties, we are hoping that Government of India will understand the sentiments of the people of Northeast and will consider not to go ahead with this bill.
The other big story that came in today, veteran parliamentarian and former Defence Minister George Fernandes died at the age of 88 after a prolonged illness. The socialist leader had long been suffering from Alzheimer's and had recently contracted swine flu as well. As a defence minister under the Atal Bihari Vajpayee-led NDA government, Fernandes oversaw two important events during that time, the Pokhran test in 1998 and Kargil war with Pakistan in 1999. With less than 90 days to go for the general election, both the Congress and the BJP are vying for the farmer vote. But what do farmers want from these political parties? That is the question. CNBC TV 18's Archana Shukla travelled to one of the epicenters of the agri distress in Maharashtra, Wardha, to gauge the mood. Here's a special report.
एनडीए की सरकार का यह दावा है कि 2022 तक जो है किसानों की आय दुगनी हो जाएगी। आप लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि आप उस रास्ते पर हैं कि 2022 तक आपकी जो आय है वो दुगनी हो सकती है? हाँ?
कैसी होगी? लगता है मैडम। रास्ते पे है ना, दिखता है ना वैसा। हमारी परिस्थिति बदलने वाली है। ये अभी तक इतनी बदली तो 2 साल में और 22 तक कैसी बदलेगी? पूरा भाव नहीं मिल रहा है।
शरद निम्बालकर जी, आपसे यहाँ पर पूछना चाहेंगे, तरस जी का कहना है कि इनकी सरकार ने जो वादा किया है 2022 तक किसानों की आय दुगनी होगी, ये वो करके दिखाएंगे। कुछ किसानों का मानना है कि हम उस रास्ते पर चल पड़े हैं, कुछ किसानों का मानना है कि बिल्कुल भी ये पॉसिबल नहीं है।
ये तो प्रयत्न है जो चल रहे हैं। सरकार तो हमेशा कोई भी हो प्रयत्न करती है, परंतु जो जितने वादे बहुत सारे किए हैं वो वादों का, जैसे अब लोन वेवर तो हुआ है परंतु उसका लाभ अभी तक नहीं मिला है। गारपीट के पैसे अभी तक नहीं मिले अनेकों को। जैसे 29 लाख फार्मर्स को उसका बेनिफिट मिला है, जबकि अपन ने उसके बहुत आंकड़े बड़े ज़्यादा दिए थे। 84 लाख को देने का किया था 4 साल में। प्रगति पे है, ऐसा नहीं है।
जो भाषण दिए गए थे, जो वादे किए गए थे, उस पर कितना आंकलन आप करेंगे अपनी सरकार का? 4.5 साल बीत चुके हैं। 10 में से अगर नंबर देने होंगे तो सरकार को कितने नंबर देंगे?
7 नंबर तो देना ही पड़ेगा। पिछली सरकार की तुलना में ये सरकार अच्छा काम कर रही है, पूरा समाधान तो कोई नहीं कर सकता है, फिर भी अगर 10 में से अंक देना हो तो 7-8 अंक दे सकते
हैं। आप कितने देंगे?
6 अंक दे सकते हैं।
6? आप कम दे रहे हैं उनसे?
कम दे रहे हैं। पिछले सरकार के हिसाब से काम तो जरूर करे, पर जो हमारी जो अपेक्षा थी, ये अपेक्षा के ऊपर नहीं जा रहे।
आपको है, आप क्या आंकलन देते हैं सरकार को?
8 नंबर देते हैं।
8 नंबर आपको लगता है अच्छा काम हुआ है?
सेटिस्फेक्शन है।
हाँ,
मैं 7 नंबर दूंगा मैडम।
क्या आप लोगों को लगता है अभी जो आपकी फसल बीमा योजना है वो किसानों के हित में बनी है?
नहीं, क्योंकि मैंने कर्जा 2 साल 3 साल पहले लिया था। उस समय मेरा बैंक ने बीमा का रकम काट लिया था, लेकिन अभी मैं कर्जा लिया नहीं हूँ, तो मुझे उस बीमा के बारे में मालूम भी नहीं है। निकालने के बाद में वो मुझे मिलेगा, इसकी मुझे शाश्वती नहीं है।
आप लोगों को ये जानकारी होती है कि कौन सी बीमा कंपनी आपकी बीमा कर रही है, कितना पैसा मिलेगा, कितना कटेगा, ये जानकारी आप लोगों को रहती है?
इनके विषय किसी को, किसी काश्तकार को, किसी खेती करने वाले आदमी को कौन सी कंपनी ने मेरा बीमा उतराया, एक कोई काश्तकार को मालूम नहीं।
फसल बीमा में जो है फायदा किसानों का नहीं हो रहा है। रामदास तरस जी, आपसे जानना चाहेंगे किस तरह से इसको बदलने की प्रयास कर रही है सरकार यहाँ पर?
विजय जी ने जो बोला है वो बराबर है कि फसल बीमा जो किसान लोगों का नुकसान होता है उसको ही मिलना चाहिए। गांव में जो किसान लोग रहते हैं उनके खेती में नुकसान होता है। और स्कॉलरशिप तरीका अभी क्या हुआ, कौन बीमा कहाँ से निकलता कहाँ नहीं जाता ये तो हमको पता नहीं है, मेरे को भी पता नहीं। लेकिन मैंने क्वेश्चन उठाया था कि हर तालुका में इसका ऑफिस होना चाहिए
जी।
हमारा ये है, यदि इसमें आप शिफ्ट लाना चाहते हैं, पैराडाइम शिफ्ट, तो जैसे गांव का ये शहर में हर एक चीज का बीमा होता है, वैसे काश्तकार का इंडिविजुअल जिसका नुकसान होता है उसको ताबड़तोड़ मुआवजा मिलने की सिस्टम इंडिविजुअल होना चाहिए।
दूसरी चीज, इस इंश्योरेंस के साथ में भी किसानों को प्राइस का सपोर्ट दिया जा सकता है, इंश्योरेंस के माध्यम से भी उसका भी विचार हम कर सकते हैं।
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. Good night.